Can you repeat that one more time? So pre-med psychology and classical philology, and became coming in?
Yeah, I coming from my background, I would not have thought of myself as having an academic career. And so I was studying to be a doctor, medical doctor. And in fact, took the chemistry courses and stuff like that. But my intention was probably to be a psychiatrist.
Okay.
I had a freshman philosophy course. And the teacher said to me that he didn't think I was interested in psychiatry, that I was interested in the soul. And I've told this story before. And that I thought that psychiatry would be a way of learning about the human soul. And that's true. I was fascinated by the delusions, accounts of strange worlds that psychotics entered. But he said, psychiatry studies sick souls. And you're interested in the healthy soul, which is true. I read Jung and was interested in archetypes, things of that kind. He said, if you want to study the soul, you have to study the humanities, the highest productions of the human psyche. And so I thought that the basic humanity would be the classical tradition.
And can you explain to me what that is? I've heard you say that a number of times. What is that exactly?
The classical tradition?
Yes.
We now know that the world is much larger than we thought 100 years ago when these academic disciplines evolved. But the source of European society was for a couple of millennia thought to be classical ancient Rome, which of course made an empire out of Europe. And before that, Greece. So the Greece was the fountainhead of our conceptions about art and the spiritual world.
So it's all that essentially originating in Greek, the development of culture and evolution of people.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. That kind of draws me to my next question. What is your background? Where were you born? 1935.
Yeah.
Did you have any recollections or specific memories that were post Great Depression? Anything of the World War II? And where were you born, and what sort of economic and social status were you? You did mention you never expect an academic career.
Yeah.
What did you expect and all that?
I come from a poor background. My mother was a first generation Italian,
Okay.
and my father was a German immigrant toolmaker.
Okay. Where did they settle? Where were you born?
Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Okay.
And I now know that my mother's Italian heritage, half of it, I mean, I've known this for some time, but as a kid, I didn't know that because they were not really aware of it themselves. But half of it was actually Southern Italian, and the Southern Italians, a number of them were immigrants from ancient Greece. And so that part of me is really Greek.
Okay. Yeah, my wife is descended from Sicilians. So
Yeah.
familiar enough, I guess, with the area. Anything from the Second World War? Any family history or anything there that was related to any worthwhile memory for you?
Yeah, my father's family, he had a brother, and they were involved in the Second World War. My uncle, my German uncle, died on the Russian front, and my grandmother, German grandmother, was put in jail because they were parading some captive soldiers through little village, and she felt sorry for them, and she gave one of the guys an orange, and so that warranted putting her in jail.
One orange.
Yeah, one orange. And my father, as a tool maker, he felt that he was in a vulnerable position with regard to perhaps the Germans trying to make contact with him. And so he had no relationship with his family through the years of the war. His father died in Germany, and then when I was in college, my German grandmother came to America to live with them.
This is just sort of a side note here. I did notice in my searches for you about you on the internet, more often than not, you're referred to as professor or just by name.
Yeah.
I've seen very little mention of you as Dr. Ruck. Do you have an aversion to that, or is it just a coincidence?
Well, technically I am a doctor, but most people think if you're a doctor, you're a medical doctor. And so
Right.
most professors prefer not to be called a doctor.
That's not true in my experience with undergraduate, but okay, I'm just curious on that. How long have you been at Boston University? Was that your entire career, or what was your career progression?
Since I think 1963.
That was at the completion of your doctorate? Is that no? That was 65.
The Boston University was my first employment. 63 or 64.
So that was after you had your master's at the
Yeah.
time and were pursuing your PhD?
I had my PhD.
You had, well, okay. Your profile shows 65. No big deal either way.
Then perhaps I got the job before I finished my degree. I can't remember.
Okay.
That must be the
Now,
case.
philology, I had never really heard of prior to hearing of you. Is that the study of ancient languages? Did I see that correctly?
Well, technically it means the love of words.
Love of words. Okay.
But it refers to literature. It encompasses actually more than words. So art history is related, but it is a separate discipline. So philology would mean the study of. I think it probably is limited to the classical languages and the literature that was produced in the culture that produced that literature.
And what are you still actively teaching? What courses are you teaching now?
Teaching a small, not that small, 30 people, but limited to that number on entheogens and the origins of human consciousness, which is what you're interested in this. The other class is a second year class reading Herodotus in order to improve their knowledge of ancient Greek.
Okay. And then there's never anything I pursued. I was in music at first, and then I went to business, and that's the track I took. Writing, I was always interested in doing, and this project has been going on quite some time since the car accident, my coma, when I first found marijuana. It really supercharged it, and then over the years, life kind of took over, and jobs and chasing salaries and getting married and 4 dogs and 15 chickens and a house and everything else. Let's see. I had another question pop up in my head while you were talking. So coining the word entheogens, I gathered that it was sort of made to erase the stigma, I guess, that drug use generally carries.
Yeah, because drug either has the implications of a medicine to make you better, but the most basic implication of drug is that you're drugged, which means you're drowsy, sleepy, and we're talking about something that awakens your higher spiritual potential.
Sure. Back to a comment that you made with Dr. Peterson and just now with me. Your philosophy professor that said, "Hey, look, I think you care about the soul," as you described. How quickly was that transition from pre-med and psychology to pursuing the soul more so?
Yeah, I had Latin in high school, but as with most people, you don't learn enough to retain anything. So essentially, I didn't know Latin, and I took a tutorial with a professor at Yale over the summer to learn Latin, and started Greek, whereas most people in classes would have already had a good foundation in Latin and probably also in Greek. So I had to do catch-up work. And in order to get enough credits to get the degree in classics, I took an extra year as an undergraduate, which as a person from a poor background, that would have been a hardship, but I was on scholarships.
And were you always academically gifted in school?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's sort of, and I guess that guided your way there.
Yeah. Before I went to Yale, I started out at another university, and it's a good university, but at the end of the year, the class ratings were that I was the best person in that class. And so I decided this is ridiculous. There should be some competition.
Sure.
So I transferred to Yale, and at the end of the first year at Yale, I was 8th in the class. So I thought that was a little bit better.
No, I did. I had a very similar feeling throughout graduate school for my MBA. Easily straight A's in 10 courses. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm Yale material per se, but I did have that same feeling. Now, if my math is right, you finished undergraduate at 20 years old.
I guess so, yeah.
Was that expedited for the time or normal, or were you ahead of the game?
I guess since I took an extra year, it was actually slow.
So that was an extra year?
Yeah.
At 20. Did you go into university study earlier than 18?
I can't reconstruct what the years would be because it's been so long ago.
Sure. Okay.
But I was 5 years as an undergraduate, 4 of them at Yale because I had to take an extra year.
Okay, so 1950, 16. Anyway, I'll work the math out later. Sounds about 15 years old, 16 years old. I've got a few more questions that I've typed up and a few more have come to mind since we've been chatting. I do see we're at about half an hour left. And
I think part of it is that I was born in December, which means that as they determine your age to go into school, I entered school earlier.
Okay. From the document I sent you, through some personal experiences of my own, as I said, I've discovered some eerily similar conclusions about the finality of life and mysteries of death that you've suggested in some other podcasts with Jordan Peterson, is the one I've mainly focused on. And the quotes that I've included from you from that exchange, I realize it's in the pages. I just resent it to you as well,
Yeah.
in a PDF to take a look at when you have the time. Just I think 2 or 3 little excerpts that I just want to make sure you're all clear that I reprint.
I can access that on my other computer. It won't interfere with that. Okay. Yeah.
Any objections to all that?
No, I don't.
All right, very good. Now I did, apparently the document I sent you this morning, I apparently overwrote a number of questions that I'd written earlier. I do show about 26 minutes left. Um, I'll go through those momentarily, and if time permits on the end, at the end, I'll discuss with you when you met Brian Neurescu and that process. But that'll be the last thing we cover if we get that far. As I mentioned, I've sort of reached similar conclusions that you described in the finality of life and mysteries of death, and I've read and heard about through Joe Rogan and anywhere else I've seen it about DMT and ayahuasca. Have you tried taking either of those?
I had the opportunity to take ayahuasca, but I decided not to. I was at a conference in Colombia.
Okay.
And I haven't done DMT.
Okay. I did re-watch that exchange with Jordan Peterson this morning. You and I believe Hoffman had the opportunity to try ergot.
Yes.
And you did and felt no effects from what I heard or what I read.
I tried it with Gordon Wasson. Albert Hoffman had sent us the sample. And we set up what should be a perfect setting in his studio, listening to music. And after about 4 hours, he said we should be silent during the experience. So I didn't say anything, but after about 4 hours, I said, Gordon, I don't think anything happened. And he said, no, it's been very disappointing.
Was it understood that it may last about 4 hours?
We should have felt something within 4 hours.
Sure,
I think
sure.
if it had been LSD, it would have lasted more like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fall asleep and wake up, and you're finished with it.
Sure.
Often you find you can't fall asleep, so the later parts of the experience often become very tedious.
What, I know this will be hard to answer, it's even hard to ask. I guess, what was your most revelatory or spirit comforting experience? What was the substance? What was the dosage? What was the situation?
It was some time ago, so I have no idea what the dosage was, but I know that it was an experience that has never left me. That is that there is no reality except what I create, which means that as I sit here in my normal consciousness, I'm aware of the fact that there are other realities in this same space that if I wish I can create, and that there's no way of knowing which one is more real. They are all as real.
That's very interesting.
The perceiver creates reality. And an obvious example now, although at the time that I was doing these things, was before these things developed, is the simple fact that in our space, pretty much the entirety of knowledge is there vibrantly waiting for us if we have the tool to access it. So with a computer, if I want to find something that I've written, I can go look for the book in a bookcase in the house, but I can just as easily just put down a few words on the computer and my book will come up in front of me. And that book is here. It's just that I can't see it without an organ of perception. So the computer and so forth, those are just enhancements of my ability to perceive. So there's no reason why the 4 physical organs I have perception are the only modes of determining what is real, because these other things are just as real. I'm just not aware of them unless I alter my organs of perception.
Speaking of things you have written, the two essays that you sent, I believe, to Wasson
Yeah,
before you got involved in their, oh man, I had it written down.
yeah.
Are those essays published somewhere? Can I read those?
Yeah.
What were they, the titles, or how would I search? How would I find those?
Let me see what they were. I can access my bibliography here, my CD.
So I'm looking under selected publications on your VU profile. Is that where it is?
It should be there someplace. God, I've written a lot of books, haven't I? Yeah, the two essays. One was in Classical Journal, a journal which is a classics journal, and the other was in Arethusa. One is on the sacred names of Emus and Eon, ethnobotanical reference and the hero's parentage. Sounds very boring. And the other one is Duality and the Madness of Heracles. And so I sent him those essays because they were influenced by what I read of his work. And he almost immediately gave me a phone call and said that we should meet. So we met for dinner in Boston. And then pretty much the next time we got together, he proposed that we should work together on the Eleusinian mystery.
What were the titles of those two essays?
One is on there is a character in classical mythology whose name is Ion. He's a subject of a play by Euripides, and his name means something. And his name is similar to the name of a prophet who is mentioned in a poem of Pindar. And I wrote an essay on the sacred names of those two guys. One is Iamus, I-A-M-O-S. And the other one is Ion, I-O-N. They're both names that are derived from the word for drug,
Okay.
which is E-I-O or I-A. It gives you the name of a doctor in Greek, which is iatros. The trus is the agential, the doer. And so a doctor in Greek, in ancient Greek, is a druggist, and it's formed with the same root. But these two figures from classical mythology have that name. And as it turns out, in the two descriptions that we have of them in important works of Greek literature, the poets are aware of the botanical reference and are deriving the name from that plant and the plant's ability to alter consciousness. This was revolutionary work at the time because classics was completely blind to the fact that the ancient Greeks and ancient cultures in general were well aware of magical plants and drugs. How would they not be? Our culture is so much determined by the medical industry. It's one of the important things of our existence to find ways to alleviate suffering and sickness. And they obviously had that same drive in antiquity. In antiquity, however, the drug man, the doctor, was very much allied with spiritual forces. So he was a kind of priest as well as scientist.
Okay.
And the other was Duality and the Madness of Heracles, was about another play of Euripides, and it is a play in which Heracles goes mad. And there's a botanical agency that causes his madness that most people are unaware of reading the play.
And those two are available online?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should be able to find them.
I'll dig around for them. I had a note here. I kind of laughed to myself. I did take Latin in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember is the school fight song.
Yeah. It's not surprising because it's badly taught.
Right.
And usually the teachers in the lower grades that barely know Latin themselves. So there's just one lesson ahead of the students often.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't retain much of that. And I was never much for foreign languages, or especially Latin at the time. It was an honors course that I could take, and I did, but I only remember the flights home. Getting back to the questions that I'd emailed you a while back that I apparently overwrote. This is 2 days ago, actually. What prompted your participation in and study of psychedelics? Is it these 2 essays that sort of launched that, or were you partaking in anything prior to that?
It was a period in which I wasn't of that generation. I was about between generations, but it's when there was widespread experimentation with drugs, the psychedelic revolution. And I could either condemn it, stand outside it as an elder, and or I could take part.
Sure.
My students were taking part, so I thought I would try it.
Okay. I don't know if you did say it, I missed it. On your experience when you realized the sort of dual realities or competing realities maybe that exist everywhere, what was the substance at the time? I know you said you know the dosage.
It was LSD.
Okay. All right. In the discussion with Dr. Peterson, you did mention that you had achieved sort of lucid dreaming and realized that you were trying to die, I believe is what you said.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself lost in a lucid dream to the point where you lost touch with the reality, I guess everybody else understands and knows? How were you trying to die, as you said?
The connection got lost there for a moment.
Yeah.
The experience of the ancient mysteries, although at the time I didn't know that, because I only became interested in the mysteries because Wasson suggested that we work on the Eleusinian mystery. So I had no training in the ancient mysteries, but I now know that the basic experience of the ancient mysteries, and it's repeated in the initiation into societies today, even though the societies may be unaware of the fact that they are perpetuating the ancient mystery initiation, is to die before you die, so that when you die, you'll know what's happening.
What to expect.
It is such an important experience of our existence. You should prepare for it. Otherwise, you won't know what's happening.
Right.
So you can die before you die.
And you explain that any further?
And if you do that, the secret is you don't die.
Right.
You just enter that other realm of possibilities surrounding you that you are unaware of. Every night when you sleep, you enter a different form of consciousness, and you don't die when you go to sleep, but your sleeping consciousness is as real as your waking consciousness. It's just a different world you're in, and death has often been compared to something like sleep.
Sure. Since prior to participating in any sort of substance whatsoever, in this instance, a psychedelic substance, since that point, or do you find yourself more at peace with any part of yourself or condition from childhood or anything that was troubling before that?
Yes, I think that I'm very stable. At my age, obviously have to be well aware of the fact that I'm not going to last forever. And I recognize what that means. And it's a pity, but it's not a disaster.
Right. Do you still, to this day, use anything, or are you, I guess, clean is the term?
I have had a drug experience within the last year.
Okay. How did you sort of, I guess, if this is, pardon the terminology, if it's not quite right, but how did you sort of rescue yourself from being lost in that dream state? And were there any experiences you had in that state that you've sort of lost touch with, that you can't reconcile in your normal reality?
I guess the study of the humanities, which is what I engaged in, was what gave me a pattern for understanding what was happening.
Okay.
So that what I essentially, if I wanted to now verbalize what happened, what I experienced was that I entered the realm that the psychiatrists and literary critics call the realm of the archetypes, where you're experiencing not the particular instance, but the generic totality of each instance.
I think that covers all the questions I had prepared ahead of time. If you have another, I think 9 minutes or so, if you don't mind, we're at 7.5. How did you end up meeting Brian for his project?
He contacted me about what he was doing and suggested that we go to the archaeological site and look at the evidence. So we arranged a trip together.
And were you involved with the book beyond that trip, that experience?
I wasn't. We had planned to write a book together and present it to the academic community, perhaps at conferences and so forth. But COVID intervened, and so travel and things like that became impossible.
Sure. Did you get a chance to read much more of my initial story?
Yeah, it's right here next to me.
Okay. I've made mention of Fred LeBlanc with Cowboy Mouth, the band from the 90s based in New Orleans. I'm interviewing him too separately for an entirely different set of topics. Yeah. I think that covers everything I have. If anything else comes up in the meantime, I'll reach out to you via email. And I'd be more than happy once I get all this figured out, because this conversation was not quite as, I guess, as organized, because I didn't want it to be as the questions I had. So I'm going to have to kind of repaint this thing. When I get that finished, I'll send you a copy of it, as I have other things. I think that's all I had, sir. I do appreciate your time.
Good talking to you.
You too.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope so. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
This has been a production of Where You At Studios, LLC.